Okay, so welcome to week 8. Week 8, we are in chapter 5. We're looking at problem solving, a process model, and announcement. The announcement for this week is you got to go back in Canvas and click on the announcements tab, and you'll see the announcement in there. To get to week 8, you do have to advance using the next button to move to the next module, or it will show the module as being locked. So just make sure you always use the next button. We're looking at the SARA problem solving model. SARA stands for Scanning, Response, Assessment, and Analysis. And so when you click on the module for week 8, you see that we're going to analyze how and why problem solving was developed for the police and how it changes the role of the street officer. The 4 steps of the SARA problem solving process, including the role, tools, and methods for each. The potential difficulties with problem solving efforts. The different types of neighborhoods and tailoring strategies for each. Then your key terms from your book. You have an analysis, assessment, guardian, handler, incident-driven policing, manager, problem analysis triangle, problem-oriented policing, problem solving, response, the SARA model, scanning, and small wins. You do have access to this week's PowerPoint, and there's a link here when you're looking in Canvas for chapter 5 to access the book. If you click on that, it should take you to chapter 5. You have your communication plan, which is just the instructions around your student viewpoint. Your student viewpoint for this week is to answer the following question: using media reports or local crime data, oftentimes available from your local police agency. So just check out Fresno PD's website. Identify a particular crime-ridden neighborhood, beat, or area of your jurisdiction. If you've done a police ride-along or you sign up for a police ride-along and you're eligible to meet that criteria, you can receive extra credit. If not, there's other extra credit offered in the announcements. And if you want a different type of extra credit opportunity and you have an idea, you feel free to email me. So you're going to find an area that is noted for having a lot of crime. Then, using techniques described in this chapter, including the problem analysis triangle, the SARA and the SARA model, explain what your approach would be to restoring order to that neighborhood through the use of a problem-solving exercise. So you're just having a scenario and giving your own opinion using these tools of how you would solve this problem, and you're posting your response. It's between 250 and 300 words. Then respond to one of your peers. Your assignment this week is going to be the items for review that are in your book. There's 9 questions there. They're also going to be answered during this PowerPoint. And you can use that format outline as a download. It's a suggestion. You don't have to use it. You could just use a regular Word document. And then there's assignment 2, you be the problem solver, and it gives you another situation. It tells you who's involved in this situation, and then asks you to give a certain response. So we'll go over that at the end of this PowerPoint. Okay, so for chapter 8, it's called Problem Solving, a Process Model. We're going to review the learning objectives, review the student learning outcomes, key terms, and we'll go through this PowerPoint. If you are answering your items for review at the same time, you may find a lot of answers while we're going through this PowerPoint. And then we'll review your Canvas assignment. Feel free to email me if you have any challenges or difficulties. truth.akins@fresnocitycollege.edu. check the announcements for Zoom information and more information about working in your group and the assignment that's due. Our learning objectives are how and why problem solving was developed for the police, how it changes the role of the street officer. You reviewed some of this already when you're just looking at the evolution of police departments in America. We're looking at the 4 steps, particularly in the SARA model, including their role, tools, and methods, the potential difficulties with problem-solving efforts, the different types of neighborhoods and tailoring strategies for each. And then your student learning objective is described as strategies to accomplish justice in a multicultural society. Community-oriented policing and problem solving are complementary core components with each other. Important adjuncts to community policing include situational crime prevention through environmental design, technologies, crime analysis, and mapping. If you click on the link, there's a short video that's assigned.
Hello, my name is Chris Baggy. I'm the sergeant of the Bakersfield Police Department. My thesis is titled Beyond Reform, Better Policing Through Systems Thinking. A while back, I had paused to study pattern and practice reform in law enforcement, and I was struck with the consistency of the almost boilerplate approach to complex and unique policing problems across the United States. I found it unusual because despite the similarities of police organizations, I know from experience, police departments are completely unique in many ways. Were that not enough to give me thought, I started to notice agencies with few reforms were happening that seemed to result in very little in their positive things. Reform, especially mandated reform, is an expensive, obtrusive process, and we wanted to understand why reform, despite the cost and almost uniformly consistent approach, didn't seem to work. I wanted to study ways to improve policing in ways that reform in the current model did not. While studying at the Center for Homeland Defense and Security, I discovered systems theory and became enamored with the concept of complex adaptive systems and systems thinking. To keep it simple, systems theory studies things as whole, not the sum of the parts. System theory portrays this.
So the systems thinking is what we were reviewing in chapter 1 when we were talking about the theory by Sinji. He talks about working together as a team, but within that team, everyone has a particular role that they play, and they are masters at whatever particular craft they have. So in your groups, if you're it's in line with hiring practices and how they organize teams and how they work together with other people. Sometimes they may take a certain personality test or a test, what career would be best for you. It's kind of like the colors test that you took. And if your answers related to green, then you were placed as a recorder. If your answer is related to orange, then you're placed as a presenter, and so on and so forth. And you're placed in those teams together. You're working with others who had the similar responses to that colors test, just to see what it's like working with individuals who have similar answers that you had. But later on, your teams are going to be split up, and you're going to rely on your own strengths within a team of others who do not share the same answers that you shared. So you're going to be in a team, if you're green, now you're going to be in a team with others who are orange, gold, and blue, fulfilling their particular role. So in systems thinking, these teams are made up of individuals who may be really good planners, working with someone who's a really good presenter, but may not be strong at planning. Someone else who's a really strong facilitator, working with someone else who's a really good presenter. And then as a group, you're putting a project together where each person is doing that part of the project. And when you come together, you're able to be really flexible at changing with whatever problem comes your way. And you're able to move in a system with a very flexible way because you work so well together, because your team is designed that way. If I put you, if you're working all together now and all of you like recording and you are all recorders and you need to present something and you need to plan something and someone needs to really take charge of that group, there may be more challenges that you would face. And then on top of that, you have a problem that you have to solve. Systems thinking would say that you might not be so flexible because your group is composed of individuals who are similar at one particular job. Where you may do better if you had these other strengths on your team and together, through collaboration, you would support each other through a problem and solve it. And be able to be flexible so the system can continue working and flowing and it's not blocked, and it doesn't become rigid. So you're kind of trying to work within this theory.
What's the character of the thing by how it functions?
So on your own, you can watch the rest of that video. That's the main part of that, how they use those in police departments, systems thinking, how they overcome their own barriers and changing within their organization. As technology changes and as more problems arise, they're able to solve them because they are collaborative and their teams are diverse and individuals are really strong and support each other within that team at what they do. So let me close out of that and go back to the PowerPoint. Problem solving is not new to police, but they do not have an in-depth understanding of the nature and underlying causes of those crime problems, didn't receive much guidance, support, or sophisticated methods. So just being kind of stuck with what works. There's not a lot of technology, a lot of paper, a lot of red tape, a lot of things you just can't overcome because the system is built in a way that just hasn't evolved yet. Routine problem-solving efforts can be effective in reducing or resolving problems, and police officers can use it throughout their day. Problem-solving policing is a strategy that puts the philosophy of community policing into practice. Goldstein first coined problem-oriented policing in 1979, argued for radical changes to improve policing. Police need to clearly define and understand the problems they are expected to handle. Police must commit to analyzing problems. Police must be encouraged to conduct a search for the most effective response to each problem and just empowering each one of those officers. They're not throwing their hands up thinking, I don't know what else to do. And they're frustrated and they have a certain, it turns into maybe an attitude of, I can't, that's just not something that we can really solve. And it becomes more of a complaint. We don't want that. We want them to be able to solve their problems and find the solution. So they have a lot of other tools that they use. One of these tools is scanning, the SARA model, scanning, analysis, response, and assessment. If you click on this link, a short video.
What is the SARA model? The SARA model helps to apply problem-solving ideas to police practice. It's part of an approach to policing that encourages working creatively and collaboratively with partners and communities experiencing problems. Problem-solving provides a process, a tried and tested series of steps to guide and structure efforts to reduce crime and disorder. Scanning involves identifying persistent problems that cause harm and call for police attention. Analysis involves systematic study into the causes or conditions that lead to a problem or enable it to persist. Response is the development or implementation of measures to try to reduce or eliminate the problem. Assessment is evaluation to determine whether the response has worked out as intended and whether the problem is being removed, reduced, or unintentionally aggravated.
It was developed by John Eck and William Spellman, first tested in Newport News, Virginia, showed a positive response. They have three key components. It's in your book. These community partnerships, they're collaborative partnerships between the law enforcement agency and the individual organizations. Excuse me, they're collaborative partnerships between the law enforcement agency and the individuals and organizations they serve to develop solutions to problems and increase trust in police. They're also comprised of organizational transformation, the alignment of organizational management, structure, personnel, and information systems to support community partnerships and proactive problem solving. Again, similar to the systems thinking, the organization becomes like a learning organization and becomes very flexible for change and adapting to technology within their structure. It becomes very good at answering the problems of their personnel, empowering their personnel. So the personnel are able to provide the services to the community and collaborate with others at a very efficient level. With these information systems that don't break down. They're not filled with a lot of paperwork and red tape. There's a lot of technology. It becomes a very ease in the work environment, reduces stress, overall mental health of people in the organization are better. And so then they can better respond to support the community. These partnerships they have with other organizations that are nonprofits or that contract with the departments, and they become proactive. They look at the data, they analyze it, they start seeing what problems that they can already prepare may happen that they can't control, or there's problems that you can be proactive at reducing those problems from even occurring because they've kind of found out what works and what doesn't work by looking at the data. And so when they're data driven, they're informed constantly with the feedback from people. They listen to the voice of the people. So this organizational transformation is also part of that systems thinking, which is flexible and we're listening. So your voice matters. The people's voice matters. Surveys are collected. Other institutions are being able to monitor police officers, police agencies, and the other organizations that work with them. Even the ones that are solving, kind of like the example with the crime lab that was created, and they had to collect DNA evidence from the sexual assaults, and they were trying to figure out the processes of whether to collect that evidence from the hospitals or from law enforcement, or do they give law enforcement those collection kits before they're analyzed, and then go back through that process. And they found out through their surveys and talking back and forth with law enforcement and with the hospitals and with others that there was a good process that they could do. So they found their other process had things like those kits were sitting on the shelves or they weren't being used, and then the law enforcement didn't know what to do with them, and then they organized it and fixed it to where that didn't happen anymore. There was a nice flow where they just went straight to the hospital and still were able to give the results to law enforcement and give law enforcement what they needed. And the courts were able to receive the evidence that they needed, and overall efficiency happened. So in the beginning, sometimes it doesn't look like it's working, but then over time, since they're flexible, they're able to solve the problems that arise. But it does take a little bit of time to collect data. So problem solving, the process of engaging in a proactive and systematic examination of identified problems to develop and evaluate effective responses. It does take a little bit of time, but it's not like they're stuck for decades on end, like in the past, not solving a problem and the problem just turning into an effect of a broken system and no one's benefiting from it. But then it starts looking like something that could be blamed on the community or blamed on an organization or blamed on someone else. It becomes pointing a finger at somebody and versus solving the cause that caused all these effects that's happening over a period of time that remain. And so it's really important. These basic principles, the first step is problem solving is to move beyond handling each incident separately. This incident-driven policing, recognizing the incidents are overt symptoms of problems. Police officers must acquaint themselves with conditions and factors that cause the problems. So looking at the causes and not these effects that are a problem, but we need to look at the cause, get rid of that cause, and all those effects disappear with it. Problem-oriented policing is primarily a planning process. If you click on this link,
nothing in your life. Am I working now? Okay, all right. Including a microphone not working is inconsequential. Everything happens for a purpose. And I told my own office, maybe you don't turn right because that's the way you're supposed to go home. It's the way you're supposed to go in life. No, we don't know what happens left. Go right, because it's the way we're supposed to go. October 1st, 2016. I found myself very realistically in that position. That morning, I had just worked 16 hours. I was on my way home. Much to my chagrin, saw a car traveling in front of me. He was all over the road. He looked like he clearly just got off work, provided his job was drinking Jim Beam for a living. I thought I had a drunk driver. So I found myself that morning at an intersection. Now, for me, the way home was right. So, do what you're supposed to do when you're a police officer. Doesn't matter how tired you are, you do the right thing. So when the light turned green, I made a left. Joke. I made a left. And just as I was about to cut the blue lights on that morning, I noticed something through the back window. So I hand sticking up in the air. I can see what he was doing. Oh, he's just text. Suddenly, a sigh of relief came over me. My already long shift is not about to become a lot longer. He's just texting and driving. I'll just say, hey, man, don't do that. It's dangerous. And then we'll be on our way. So I cut the blue lights on, pulled this car over. When I walked up to the window, what I saw would forever change my life. And it would touch me in ways that I didn't know possible. When I walked to the window that morning, came face to face with a 18-year-old African American teenager. He looked at me, and he was terrified. He looked at me, not because he was nervous because he got pulled over. I've been nervous, so he was tired. He was scared. He was scared for his life. It really hit me hard at that moment. At that moment, I was no longer a police officer. See, this is just the outer shell of what I do. That's not who I am. Who I am is a father, a husband, a human being, just like that young man. And I sat there and I watched him with his hands in the air, surrendering when I asked him nothing. And he said, what do you want me to do, officer? And he hurt me. The officer. And I said, I don't want you to get hurt. So as a police officer at that moment, I was looking into his big brown eyes that looked just like my 5-year-old son's. And I don't want you to get hurt. And he said to me, you want me to get out of the car, officer? And that's when I realized he thought I said, I don't want to have to hurt you. The guy who's trying to be a good guy. That hurt me. And so When I replied to him that morning, I looked at him and I said, "No, I don't want you to get hurt. I I don't want you to text and drive. I don't want you to get in a car accident. I want your mom to watch her baby boy grow up and be somebody. I want you to do something in life. I just don't want you to get hurt." And that's the first time he relaxed. The first time he relaxed and calmed down. And after that, there was no more police action for me. I'd done enough. And we parted ways that morning. It bothered me. Remember, I said I worked 16 hours. It would be hours until I could fall asleep. Therapeutically, I posted that encounter on Facebook because it needed to get out there. It needed to be said, and I needed to say, I don't care who you want to blame. This is not good. I went to sleep. I woke up 6 or 8 hours later and discovered it had been shared 20,000 times. I didn't know you could max out friend requests, all this types of thing. Ultimately, that Facebook post would be shared 400 million times around the world.
So community policing is very hard in the sense of vulnerability, of seeing each other as human beings and really getting rid of things that have harmed relationships in the past, getting rid of police violence, and also getting rid of fear of the police, to where you respond in a nature that's way higher than what you should be responding in. Being nervous, like he said, is okay, but being in fear of a public safety, a peace officer, there's something wrong there. And so he's talking about crossing this cultural barrier. And Jen Wright is a theorist who would say that the fact that he shared that story builds community hope, that we can reach a point of trust when it comes to building those relationships, because of the history of violence. But there's hope when we hear stories like that this officer is saying that he misunderstood because he was so fearful of what might happen to him from what we've seen on the media, what we've seen, and that data will statistically show this, problem with police violence in communities of color, that would have someone believe that I might lose my life today in this car without going through the due process of court and letting the court play out the process and see, what's going to happen. Am I just getting a ticket? Am I doing something that I break a law at a level of misdemeanor felony? Can I go to court and beyond a reasonable doubt they find me guilty and then have to deal with it at the end of that court, and things like that? We're getting your due process as a citizen, and you're getting your right, and not believing that a police officer is also a court and also the judge in a sentencing or something. A police officer is just doing his job of enforcing the law. You can't text and drive. You can't drink and drive. You have to drive according to the law. That's all he's doing. He's doing his job. It's not who he is. He's simply going to tell you, here's your ticket for breaking whatever particular law you have. If you're drunk driving, he wouldn't let you continue driving on that street as a drunk person because you're a danger and you're breaking another law. So of course you would get arrested and go to jail till you're no longer drunk, things like that. But in those small moments dealing with the entry level part of the criminal justice system, if there is a crime happening, have been life or death situations based on reactions and based on cultural cues through language and body language and things like that. So it's a difficult thing to do community policing because you have to break cultural barriers. You have to communicate at a higher level and at a vulnerable level of sharing a story and saying, I'm human. I'm not a stereotype of violence. I'm not a image of violence. I should be an image of peace and of service as a public servant. And the citizen should know that they're protected by their constitution when they are pulled over by an officer. So on both sides, knowing what roles we play and feeling them and being empowered. Just being empowered as any other or person in an organization at work is empowered. It's the same as a civilian person walking down the street. You should be empowered with knowing your rights and who you are and where you live, your country, your community values, community practices, representing your college, representing your place wherever you come from, and football team or whatever it is that you like, regardless of gender, race, political affiliation, and things like that. You're free. Freedom is the key, and humanity is the key. So it's a difficult job. People who have been in the military, veterans who have been in diverse environments and are used to finding understanding through communication and really say, did I hear you right? I don't think you heard me right. And having that level of discourse back and forth, is a skill, is a tool. So it's really powerful when you see veterans in the police department. If you are a veteran, it's really great to serve because you have something that most often some individuals might not have. It's working in diverse environments, a different language, different cultures. So community-oriented policing problem solving is a lot of just the presence of someone being there, and the second is verbal communication, a very important. So that video is very powerful. I'm sure that's why it's shared so many times. So moving on, problem is a group of two or more similar incidents that are causing harm. So that's the definition. Scanning means problem identification. This requires a skill of analysis. So where do you get these high crime call places? What are the times of these high crime calls? Are they on weekends, particular time of day? Repeat offender list, repeat victim list, where are these crimes coming from? What is happening? Why is it happening? Why are crimes festering in a particular community? And this could be a reaction of a larger cause of a problem. And so it's going beyond just looking at this community is a problem. No, there's a cause that's overlying. These are effects of something. And we have to look at the data. Community surveys to identify problems can use a system called CHEERS. So they use a system called Community Harmful Expectation Events Recurring Similarity. To collect the data, CHEERS tends to be questions asked during scanning. Incidents may be similar in various ways, similar in behaviors, or the location, persons, times, events. Many policing problems could be expanded or contracted in scope so as to incorporate more than one type of troublesome behavior. Important to determine the length and breadth of the problem at onset. Analysis is the heart of the problem-solving process, and is critical to success. Effective tailor-made responses cannot be developed unless people know what is causing the problem. Information gathers from inside and outside the agency. Analysis should be circumvented in obvious natures of problems in order to seek a quick solution. Trying to solve something really quickly should not be their goal. It takes time to figure out what the cause is. We mostly have to look a little bit deeper. Considerations for analysis. Is it based on common sense? There's no one way to do an analysis. Individual problems require individual analysis. It requires creativity and innovation. It doesn't have to be complex. Most of the time, it's just the voice of the people that's in that community. Most oftentimes, they'll tell you what the problem is if they feel safe enough to speak about it. Having access to that community and hearing the voice of that community is the challenge to get to. So that's the goal. Tools for analysis. Crime analysts will try to handle that data. They record it in the management system. They map the area. There's technical assistance, resident and business surveys. They're seeking the small wins. Some problems are too deeply ingrained or too rooted in complex social problems to be eliminated. Small wins involves breaking problems down into smaller, less complex problems that can be solved. A series of small wins can have a substantial impact, prioritizes problems, and collaborates with the community, outside agencies, and police work together. Using this problem analysis triangle, problem must have an offender, a place, and a target victim. Okay, so we're looking at this triangle here, helps officers visualize the problem and understand the relationships. It helps the officer analyze the problem, understand where more information is needed, and assist with crime control and prevention. Removing one of the three elements from the triangle can stop the pattern. So if you remove the offender and his motivation to do a crime, then you won't have the problem. If there's no victim there or target, or a person is highly just aware of their surroundings, they have a lot of wisdom, they follow safe practices, they have a certain way to respond, that would fear, the offender would be afraid of offending. It demotivates the offender, then you wouldn't have a problem. It would reduce the problem. Still would be of concern if there's a place, an offender that's looking for a victim. I would say there's still a problem that exists. Even if the target's not there, why would that be left to fester? Kind of to say that if someone walked through there unknowingly and it's not safe, it still shouldn't exist. If you don't have a place for this to happen, then there's no offender or target. There's no place for this. Using the problem analysis triangle, police also need to be aware of three types of third parties that can help or hinder the problem solving effort. Handlers, guardians, managers. A response is an effective way of dealing with the problem. Responses should not be premature. Responses need to be tailored to the problem. Solutions can be total elimination of the problem, reducing the number of incidents the problem creates, reducing the seriousness of the harms, dealing with the problem better, removing the problem from police consideration. Assessments. Did response diminish the problem? So after they've tried the solution, they're going to assess it and see if it removed the problem. Assessment involves the evaluating the effectiveness of their responses. Did the problem decline? Did the response cause the decline? Did the response occur as planned? Should the effort end? Measures the numbers of arrest or the levels of reported crime, response times, clearance rates, citizen complaints, and workload indicators. So they need something to measure their assessment by. These are the things they may use to do that. If responses are not effective, new information may need to be collected before new solutions can be developed and tested. Evaluation is the scientific process for determining if a problem declines and if the solution really caused the decline. Assessment is the final stage of the evaluation and problem solving. And so they may make another cycle of this after they've given out a report. So after the assessment and they have the final stage, they probably would give some type of announcement or a meeting or have some type of presentation that they would give showing all of this, what it was, what the problem, the solution, how they came about assessing it, and what is the new solution or idea to put in that place, and how do we sustain it. It's kind of like your scenarios. So your scenarios is a solution to some issue that you had in your community, and you had to apply the same kind of idea to your scenario, but we hadn't covered this part yet. So you're going to have still more presentations that are going to kind of expand from where they are right now, and you're just going to be more detailed and add more problem-solving tools to your scenarios using systems thinking. And so here's a visual of the process. these problem-solving stages and major questions. Scanning, what is the problem? Analysis, how big is the problem? Who's involved and how? Where is it and why? The response, what should be done about the problem and who should do it and how? And then the assessment, did the response occur as planned? Did the problem decline? What should be done? And when you're looking at scanning, you're looking at how they're going to measure it. Are they going to collect the number of arrests? Are they going to collect surveys on complaints from citizens? And then analyzing all that information when they come to that, how big is the problem? Who is it and where and why? And then the response to it. How will we hold the solving this accountable? You know, how are we going to determine that we're holding something accountable for this? Did the problem, how are we going to measure that the problem went away? Can you measure it? Are there other causes for the crime going away, or was it really what we did? And so you're going to assess it. Did the response occur as planned? So we're going to process it. We're going to evaluate it. Did it decline? Did it help? What are alternatives? So the problems with problem-solving efforts, possible reasons why problem-solving might not always be successful. Police officers do not have the analytical skills required to analyze problems. Police managers and supervisors do not know how to foster problem-solving. Police agencies resist change. Police workloads prevent anything but superficial analysis. There's too little involvement of the communities. Little is known about what works under these circumstances. So this slide is very important of how things have went in the past when we didn't have change. It usually typically was these items that are here. And so it's really great to see transformation happening in this generation. You can see the evolution happening. Application of problem-oriented policing, working in different types of neighborhoods, collective efficiency. Neighborhoods have 3 identifiable stages: dependence, conflict, and interdependence. 4 types of neighborhoods. They're either strong, vulnerable, anomic, responsive. Effective policing involves not only reducing crime and disorder, but also facilitating neighborhood development, low levels of crime and disorder, and high levels of integration and collective efficiency. Okay, so looking at your assignment, the items for review, the PowerPoint will answer a lot of your questions. So just glancing at assignment 1. And go back. When you first open assignment 1, you see the practitioner's perspective. That's just always a clip that's in there, just kind of seeing what their responses to an interview was around their job that they do in the community. So your first question, explain what is meant by problem-oriented policing, how it differs from traditional reactive incident-driven policing. And so we discussed that. We described the 4 steps of the SARA model, problem-solving process, review in detail what kinds of activities are involved in an analysis stage. If you use that slide that had the visual display of analysis stage on there, we kind of went over that. And so review that slide, the visual, look at 3 elements of the problem analysis and graffiti problem triangles. This one is in your book. So number 4, you will have to look at your book to answer that one. Graffiti problem triangles. List the 3 types of roles of third parties. We covered that in the, talked about managers, handlers, in that slide, looking at different third parties that are involved in problem analysis triangle. List the 5 potential solutions to problems. We also went over that. Oops. Provide an example how problem-oriented policing might function in a situation involving nighttime robberies of delivery trucks. What would demotivate a robber from even being there? So maybe cameras, a police presence. What else could you remove from the situation? You could remove the delivery truck. Maybe they deliver at daytime and not nighttime. Maybe it's the place, the location as a dangerous situation. So you're looking at that triangle when you solve that, number 8. Review some of the considerations in tailoring problem-solving strategies to neighborhoods, different types of neighborhoods, maybe identify different elements of different types of neighborhoods in the last few slides. And then the next assignment, you be the problem solver. This is from your book. To illustrate problem-solving policing, Sarah in action. You can walk through this case study as a problem solver and see how it might be scanned, analyzed, and addressed. Gives you a good example. So just walk through this example case study. They're talking about potential home delivery customers in a no delivery neighborhoods. The people the stakeholders that are involved are signers of a petition, fast food delivery people, restaurant manager, national pizza delivery chain, local NAACP chapter, legislators and media. And then it's going to tell you who the victims are, the locations, offenders. And so it gives you the following crime situation. In an eastern city of 35,000 with a relatively low crime rate, there have been occurring a number of robberies of food delivery drivers. Robberies are occurring at a rate of 1 per month. Hearing news of the robberies and knowing their drivers are very fearful, several pizza and other fast food stores refuse deliveries to mostly low income and predominantly Black neighborhood, where many of the robberies are taking place. On the other side, many elderly residents of the neighborhoods are complaining about the lack of delivery service. Petition the city to reverse the policy. Okay. So you're just looking at who's involved, the data that they're collecting, the location where it's happening, well, how are they attacking people, where, when, why. And they're not analyzing it, and they're telling you more about it. And it says, given this information, what kinds of tailored responses might be developed. And it just has these tailored responses that might be developed. Choose one of these tailored responses and just respond to it. Which one of these might work? Why would it work? And that is it for the week, that along with your presentation. If you have any problems with your presentation, that's for week 8. Week 9, always click through the advanced learning opportunities by clicking next. So you'll be able to move to week 9. And week 9 is about crime prevention in chapter 6. Okay, so we'll look forward to working on that. Just email me if you have any questions, comments, or concerns.